All right. Let's see. And we are live.
So what's up, buddy?
Nothing much. Just finally getting around from the procrastination in my blood and the weird anxiety that builds up before you try and do things that really aren't too important.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I get it. So yeah, D&D, man. We are talking D&D today.
Yes.
So, what are we really gonna be going over
I think
for
we
today?
definitely decided that we're going to go over two main topics, just some ideas we've been throwing around. The first one is going to be covering looking for groups and kind of like just like a where to start series. What's important, what's to look out for, maybe some problems to look out for as well. Just things that might be weird. Um,
Right.
which unfortunately on my end we had already recorded this, but I'm dumb and
Oops.
didn't look at certain audio settings, so it didn't record, and so we were having to redo this one. So
Hey, but whatever, right?
yeah, so
It's just what's called a false start.
yeah, so yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah,
Um,
whatever.
and the second topic, I think we're looking to do maybe a little bit of home brewing today. Um,
Yes,
we'll
sir.
see exactly how far we get into it or how it goes at all. Really, it's just,
Oh, it'll be great.
I don't think I've
What's
ever homebrewed like right off the bat with anybody like live. Like I've always just kind of passed ideas around, but this will
never
be
just on the
interesting.
fly,
Yeah,
bouncing it off. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So,
and
but let's jump into the let's go ahead and jump into the main subject, eh?
got you.
And so yeah, looking for group, always a challenge. Luckily, it's been a little easier with everything kind of moving to online, but it can still present its fair share of challenges. So let's kind of go over those and how we can kind of overcome that, and just kind of go from there. So
Yeah,
uh,
so looking for group online has been a new challenge for me personally. I know me and you and maybe some other groups we played with in person have always been kind of easy. Find friends that
right,
like D&D, look for a weekend that everyone's available, and just kind of get together and start role playing. But online definitely brings its own challenges. Uh,
for
Also,
sure.
with some other challenges that kind of leak over from just looking for a group in general. Um, but there's always, some expectations. I think you should always kind of set yourself up for when
Right.
looking for a group. There's, uh, lots of different things to look out for. I know for one thing I always try and look out for is the the type of game that you're looking to get into. This can always, let's see, kind of vary from person to person. Like what kind of story you're looking to be in. Something really chill, really funny, really serious. One shots and long campaigns. Um,
Right.
and there's just always different types of things to try and get into.
And I think a lot of the whole setting expectation aspect, I think that's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of almost a given that's going to be something that's done anyway.
Right.
For example, like if you're pitching an idea to someone, for them to want to be like, yeah, that sounds interesting, you got to tell them exactly what the subject's going to be, like what the setting is. It doesn't have to be like super high detail, but they have to know what they're going to be playing. You can't just say, hey, you want to hang out and play D&D. I guess you can, but not
Right.
everyone's going to be on board with that, and also that kind of prevents an issue of in the middle of the game that someone's like, yeah, can we do something
Right.
else?
Like I didn't sign up for this.
What do you mean we're the bad guys? Are we the baddies?
Right. Um. Got you. But yeah, so like just campaigns in general on what type of feel they're gonna have. Uh,
Hmm.
they just vary so much, and by different people's personalities, you always want to make sure that you try and filter out what kind of campaign that you're really gonna find yourself enjoying, because that's always gonna be the real important issue.
Yeah, you want to make sure people are having fun ultimately, as the DM anyway.
Right.
As a player, I mean, the goal is to have fun and not hopefully not ruin other people's fun in the same at the
Right.
same time, except for the DM because screw the DM.
Yeah.
Uh, This coming from two DMs.
Yeah, but that's but that's actually true though. That's something else. Just on the other side of the curtain. Sometimes you might, if you don't find out the expectations of everybody, including the DM, some people might not have fun and might not enjoy the game, and it might like set bad expectations for games in the
Right.
future with that group. Uh, just because I mean, if a player comes in and they want to make a meme character and constantly make fart jokes and stuff, but maybe the rest of the group or the DM are trying to have something else, and it's always a little bit weird. And even though it's still probably fun, it's just not what you're looking for or what
Hey,
everyone's
every
looking
court has
for.
to have a jester, man.
That's true. True.
That's what bards are for. Uh,
Yes,
oh, I'm kidding. I love bards.
I don't.
Um, yeah, wait, shut up. But yeah, kind of going on with that, for just kind of a personal example, as a DM, I really don't like when people constantly throw rules at me. Like, I do get some rules, and I don't mind reminders every once in a while, but I really don't like when I feel like I have to argue with my players over a rule.
Right.
That's me personally, but
No, yeah, I get that. Just and that might not be an expectation someone is like really kind of looking out for. That
right.
sometimes the expectation just might fall in with the individual personalities, and definitely like rule lawyers and trying to figure out if I can do this certain thing, if it's like written as intended, or um, just stuff like that. It's just it kind of
Right.
takes away from some of the fun, but
It does. I think that's why most people do just go with raw. Um, however, I kind of like having being a DM. I like having a little more free form gameplay. Like just because you can look up the rule and it says, yeah, but I can do this. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, but as the DM, I'm telling you, you can't do that.
yeah,
And some people may get upset about that, but ultimately, I think that's going back to the setting expectations. That's where you kind of have to tell people this isn't necessarily a raw campaign.
right.
So that's kind of where I was going with my personal story there. But yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah, and then of all the other expectations, something that's always really fun to look forward to is the theme.
oh
So
yes,
man, always just finding the right type of adventure and the setting that you're going to be playing in is that can definitely set up for what type of game you're going to be playing, or what to expect. So me personally, I really love I love the idea of doing like a pirate ocean theme.
oh that's always a hard one to
Right, but
do. But
it's
yeah, I like
always
that
it's
too.
hard to pull it off, and if your players are looking for that, but maybe you have an inexperienced DM or a DM that just hasn't done or covered any of the rules that might come with ships and travel and stuff like that,
Right.
it can kind of um, always throw some wrenches in your plans. So uh,
Yeah.
that's why it's always good during like session 0 or even beforehand just to really talk about these things. Or maybe before you even get into a group, just message the DM or the other players and make sure you're talking about what kind of game you want to run.
Right. So and that's a good segue actually. That kind of falls into communication as well. Um, you got to be willing to the DM needs to be willing to talk to his players. The players need to be willing to talk to the DM. I think that's always a big thing. And I think the most common thing you usually hear as a DM is like, "Hey man, great campaign," which is nice and all,
Yeah.
but I feel like I don't get a lot of feedback from that. I actually do like when my players talk to specific things about me that has happened during the campaign or a session, so that way I can kind of build off of it. But anyway, I was kind of digressing a bit there.
Right.
But communication,
I think some, if not most, DMs would definitely like to have their own little comment cards at the end of every session.
right?
I've tried doing this. Sometimes you really have to like twist the arm of your players to actually get good feedback.
Yeah,
I think most players are afraid to maybe hurt their DM's feelings or something around the lines. Just because at least for me personally, even if it's not an idea I'm going to implement into my system, I at least like to hear uh, some opinions of the players and maybe see if they have an idea that I haven't thought of, or maybe just bring up something that we could possibly do in the future that I can incorporate into my world or game or something. That's
yeah,
always a
absolutely.
big plus. But I think most of the time after the games, maybe the players are just kind of exhausted from having fun or something, but they usually just kind of give you the pat on the back or tell you they enjoyed it and they can't wait for the next game, and then typically they're off to go do the next thing, you know.
Right. One thing that I actually had some success with getting after game feedback was asking my players to write out their character's inner monologue of the session. I
Yeah,
feel like actually a really good barometer for how much the player is enjoying it, because they're like, they're role playing their character. So if the character just hates everything that's going on, that's probably a good indication that your player may not be having the best time.
right, right. Or even if they're understanding the campaign.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, it could be due to many reasons, but sometimes players just get lost and they're not sure even what's going on anymore, but they're just waiting for you to tell them to roll a dice and waiting for combat, you know?
Ooh, yeah. The detached player who's on their phone until someone says roll initiative.
Right. And so, I mean, right there, I mean, that's like another expectation to look out for. How involved are you looking for your other players and DM to be? Are you is it going to bother you if maybe they're not interacting as much until it's like time to start combat?
Hmm.
Are they looking to be in it hardcore and role play every chance they get? Are they looking for just dungeon crawls? You know,
Yeah.
those are also good things to look out for. Me personally, I like to do maybe like a 60-40 mix, 60% role play, 40% battle. But I mean that changes depending on like where we're at in a story. But I think finding the right players and like knowing what they're wanting to do in the campaign is definitely important as well.
For sure, for sure. Um, kind of going on with that too is the kind of setting like the pace of the overall session as well. You were saying like a 60-40 mix depending on what you're doing. With something like that, I would say you can have kind of your portions where it's just strictly RP. And that's kind of your more downtime
Right.
uh, of the campaign, I guess. But personally, I like to always encourage my players to role play as much as possible.
Yes.
Like even if you're in combat and you're just doing a simple action, you don't just have to say I swing my sword.
Yeah.
You could be a little more creative and say, I kind of do a feint, deflect my when the blade deflects off the enemy's blade, I spin around and slash him across the chest. You can be a little creative with it.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's something I've always like tried to implement, especially like on a natural 20.
oh
Just
yeah,
because those are always like big moments for people, you know. And
yeah,
so like sometimes, I mean, I know you're the DM. When you're DMing, you're kind of expected to narrate what's going on, but depending on like big moments or like big roles or anything like that, I think it's always fun to try and push your players to maybe like let them speak personally about how they want their character to do a certain attack
yeah.
or spell. Um, and it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly what the DM is thinking. So that's always fun. But I think also with that, you do have to worry about putting maybe a little bit of introverted players in the spotlight whenever they don't want it.
Right.
Um, maybe getting a feel for whenever like all right, Josh, tell me what your character does, and then like if you happen to be a person that's not really good at being put in the spotlight, and then I cast the spell, is that good? And then or but you never
Or
know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I,
I don't know, man. I throw a fireball. What do you mean?
yeah, right.
But so I think that's always fun, and definitely you're gonna pick up more on those kind of cues as you play more with people. But
Right.
I think that's always something fun to kind of explore. Whether if you're a player that wants to try and do that, maybe ask your DM uh, if you can kind of say how you do it, or maybe just kind of step into it. I know me personally, watching Critical Role. Liam does an excellent job of doing this whenever he's playing his wizard. Whenever he casts a spell, he'll say that he takes certain components and maybe does like certain kind of like hand gestures or how he uses it specifically, and then casts his
Oh,
spell.
nice.
It really brings more flavor from the world and like components and ingredients that you never really think of. You just buy it and then assume that you use it, but it always
Or you
just
just keep it a
brings
component pouch and never even mention that you have components.
exactly. And so I think that's always something fun to do. Just letting your players do it, or stepping up as a player, and just adding more flavor to your character is always fun.
Or here's a fun idea: just make up incantations for your spells,
Sure.
whatever. So screw it.
Yeah.
Ah,
But I think that covers quite well. What other expectations do we have whenever looking for a group?
oh geez. So we've done pacing, we've done campaign setting. Let's
Oh,
kind of
starting times is definitely a big one.
yeah, that's a good one. Let's do that.
So when talking about starting times, uh, something me and you recently have found ourselves in a not a pickle, but it can be kind of just something we have to look out for is
It's
time
a factor.
zones. Yeah. Just living in different time zones and realizing not everybody can start at the exact same time or part of
Yeah,
day
that can
that
get
you
rough.
can.
That can get really rough,
Mhm.
especially from someone that is on the East Coast time zone. Working with one of my players was on the West Coast, and then I had another player that was living in Malaysia. So very very hard to get those times lined up.
Yeah. Personal story. I was looking around at LFG on Reddit just because I was wanting to play in a game. Signed up, put in like my little backstory and character idea to see if the DM would accept me into the game.
Right.
Got in, was really excited. Went into the session 0. We talked about the setting that we were playing in, what all the classes we were playing, and it wasn't until the day before that I found out that we were going to be playing my time at roughly 2 or 3 in the morning.
Oh man.
So I didn't realize that not only like were they across the pond, but they had like weird sleep schedules.
Oh
So,
jeez.
but I was committed. I stayed up till I want to say it was 3 in the morning that I stayed up just to play in the game, and unfortunately, I had to tell that DM that it wasn't going to work for me.
Yeah.
But I still played the first game. Had fun, but at the time it just there was no way I could do that consistently.
Oh yeah, that would you have a life, man.
Well, had a life, not anymore.
Well, you know how it goes.
But yeah. So starting times is always a fun thing to play with.
You mean it's not a fun thing to play?
Yeah, yeah.
Kidding.
Slash S.
For sure.
Um.
So let's kind of go into another, since we're kind of on the subject of talking about individual players' needs, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Let's go into kind of setting goals for each player. I think that's an important thing to talk about. Both players and the DM. Well, you know what? Skip that. We'll talk about a different subject 'cause we kind of already touched base on that.
Right. But that is
Uh,
like just to have an asterisk on, just like making sure whenever you are going into a group, just kind of look out for uh, whether or not you're going to be working as a team or if it's going to be a bunch of random people. It just having that stuff figured out earlier on is really going to help you out with decisions later in the game.
for sure. I think we could just cut that part out, honestly.
Yeah.
So next thing, let's go on to you know what? Let's go on to problem players because I think that's an important subject we
Okay.
should touch base on. So yeah, problem players. That player that just always seems to be trying to throw a wrench in everything, or that just never wants to go along with the what everyone else wants to do. I mean, we've all seen them, we've all heard of them, and we've all worked with them. So
Yeah. Man, I think the number one thing to realize, uh, at least for most groups, should be that you're not playing a solo game. You're not logging into Skyrim where you're the main character and you make all the decisions and it revolves around you.
going on that's always a really tough one to go over with people. Is like you have to realize you're not the main character necessarily. You
Right.
are a main character, but you are not the main character. Everyone else isn't just a side character.
Right. And I mean there might be times within a campaign where maybe the game is focused more around your backstory. But I think you
Hmm.
should always be mindful on the group as a whole. Never try and make decisions or do wacky shenanigans or something that I mean, which it might seem fun at the time, but
Just make sure people are on board with it.
yeah,
Really, like
yeah,
don't be that guy.
yeah. Just sitting around and having to listen to someone, I don't know, going around pantsing guards because they think it's funny for 10 minutes and just waiting for the game to progress is it can be a bit tiresome for some players
Right.
or DMs in that matter.
That and it also doesn't hurt to give other people some time to shine too. Like
Sure.
just because your character can jump in and do something, maybe let one of the other players jump in, or maybe go over as a consensus with the group, like we were saying earlier, and devise a plan instead of just jumping into action. So
Right. So always just try and be mindful. Try not to be the problem player.
right,
But whenever you have to deal with them, it's always that can be a big deal. You set up these groups, the expectations to have fun, and then
something happens, and yeah,
something
someone's not having
happens.
fun.
Yeah. I think there's a couple mature ways to go about it. One, if you can work it out, great. If you can talk to them and be adults or be mature about it and just kind of be like, hey, I'm not enjoying this. Could you cut it out or maybe like tone it down a bit or something? And then who knows,
Right.
maybe it will go perfectly and they'll be like, you know what, man, you're right. I am going to cut back on that and we're going to have fun again.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah, or just talking to bringing it up to your DM and trying to let them mitigate it during the game. There's different ways to go around out, but I think just having open communication and just expressing that maybe a certain person is maybe ruining the vibe of the game. It's always just a place to start. Just
Uh,
communicate.
yeah. I think another good way to approach it without kind of interrupting the flow of the game, because sometimes this stuff can happen while you're in the middle of RPing or something like that.
Right.
As a DM, sometimes you just have to get a little creative with it, like throw something in that somehow defuses the situation or distracts the players enough that they get away from the problem issue and then move on to something else.
Right.
That's always I think that's a tough thing to do as a DM, because you don't want to stifle people's play time and their creativity, and like sometimes conflict is an okay thing. In fact, conflict can sometimes is encouraged among players. It makes things a little more interesting.
Right.
But when it gets to the point where it's interrupting the game or someone is obviously getting irritated, then at that point it might be a time for the DM to be like, okay, well, while you guys are, arguing or something, suddenly someone bursts into the room and starts shouting something, and then that kind of leads into something else and continues the game forward.
Right. Yeah.
Something like that.
I think that's a smart play. I don't think I've actually tried doing that, so maybe
Yeah,
I'll
there
steal
you
that
go.
one
We're learning
myself.
something new today.
Yes. But
And then
okay.
go ahead.
No, you.
Okay. Now you. Okay. So, and then I think another good thing to talk about is just kind of knowing when to walk away, call it quits. That's unfortunate when that does happen, but it does.
Right.
You know.
Just I mean, there's other fish in the sea. You can't be discouraged about D&D or playing just because you had um one bad group. Uh,
Yeah.
and also just save yourself the mental stress. Don't stay in that abusive relationship.
It's a game.
Yeah, you're in it to have fun. Uh,
Why you have to be mad? It's only a game.
exactly. Uh, Finding a group it's very easy nowadays. There's so many people always looking for new games. You can always pick up being your own DM if you're a player, um, or even just start your own group, something like that. It's
Yeah.
okay.
It is okay. That's right. How do you just find a group? I guess we haven't really talked about that at all. We've kind of gone into if you've already got the group together and kind of setting the expectations. Let's just go straight into finding a group,
You
because
mean
I
you
think
don't
that,
just log into Discord and they're suddenly there to play and like ready?
well, you have to have the people there to
Oh man,
do that. Yeah,
no wonder I haven't been playing. I haven't
I
taken
know,
these
right?
steps. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, actually getting players together, which is a fun challenge in its own.
Yeah.
We kind of touched base on this a little bit, like you were talking about going to a looking for group page. Was that on Reddit or the
Yeah. So
forum?
I think, I mean, everybody's gonna have their preference on where to look. But I think a big thing to kind of start out with if you're completely new is find a community.
Yeah.
Online. Nowadays there's so many. There's so many there's so many streams that have communities of people that are looking for
Yeah,
games.
like Source's Tome, man. That's a great one I've heard.
Yeah. So hopefully we can start running our own games for people. Critical Role, they have their own. Um, or even just like going to Reddit, finding a looking for group page. Facebook has them. Just about anywhere. D&D Beyond. Um, just go into one of these and like start looking at posts, or even post your own saying that you're looking for a game, and it's the first place to look. Um, and most of these are gonna have little descriptions already in place on like what to expect and what times and stuff like that. So that's always a big plus for online games nowadays. Most of these
Yeah,
have
absolutely.
written out stuff for you.
Absolutely. So mostly it just comes down to just going out on the limb and making a post somewhere saying you're looking
Right.
for a group. I think that's the biggest thing. And so online, I feel like it's probably a little easier to find groups online.
Hmm.
The really difficult thing is finding groups in real life to play with. If you don't have like a circle of friends that wants to play, or that just isn't very interested, that's where it gets a little bit more difficult. Uh,
Right.
I I found that you can have good success from checking out like game stores that sell like tabletop games or cards. They generally will have a night or two where they will have a D&D game, or even a new like kind of one shots where they for new people that are wanting to play. They usually do stuff like that. I would just
Yeah.
check it out online to see what if they do something like that, or just go in and talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Um, and then also, if you're like a college student, they usually have like a tabletop gaming club there you can check out. There's a few outlets, but it can be a little more challenging to find players in real life, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and even just like out of all the friends I had, eventually I got to the point where I had a lot of friends that are playing. It kind of got easier, but it didn't start out that way.
Right.
Sometimes you just gotta, ask a friend if it's something they'd like to try, and just like maybe start talking about it, and maybe a family member or something, just say, hey, we're
It's
gonna we're gonna have a
that's
game
pretty
night, and
much
this is what we're gonna do.
yeah. That's pretty similar to the way that you and I actually started playing D&D together. Is
Yeah.
we were I was working with you, and I just asked you, hey, have you ever played D&D? And you're like, I've heard of it, and we just kind of went from there, and we started playing it, and you got super into it,
Yeah.
became a DM.
Yes.
So good times.
Great times, and man, am I thankful.
Right.
But
So
yeah, I think just kind of moral of the story for both of them is just you kind of have to go out and look a little bit. Online has gotten a lot easier. IRL can be a little bit more challenging, especially if you are a bit introverted. It's not always easy going up to people in real life and just bringing up a conversation about D&D. But most people, not all, but most people are pretty open to new players and like to share the love for it. So
right. I mean, I think most people that play D&D are always on the lookout for a group to play with anyway. So I mean, if you get that right person, they're gonna be like, yeah.
right. Though I would
Yeah.
say for online games, just kind of be prepared. D&D does vary on like how people play a lot.
Oh yeah.
There's lots of people that like to play theater of the mind, where there's not necessarily a battle map or something visually to look at, where the DM kind of explains stuff, and then the players themselves have to imagine it and try and say what they want to do, and it's just like a story in your head. So that can be really fun, and it has its own challenges. But
Yeah.
also, some people like to play games where it's text only, where you're typing everything out and reading it, almost like a bit of a novel, interaction novel. Um, and also just be prepared to have a mic. Uh, Most games I know, well, no, I wouldn't say most games. There are a lot of games out there, so uh, just have a mic and just be prepared for talking to the group through a Discord or like a Skype call or something to play the game, if that's what you're wanting to play.
Right. Well, while not required, that does kind of help get a word in, because if everyone else has a mic and you're just typing, it can be really hard to incorporate RP, uh, because everyone else could just go right past while you're trying to type a response. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
But there's
Um,
all sorts of games out there for however you want to play. You just gotta keep looking for them.
for
Get out there.
sure, for sure. So yeah, man. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. Was looking for group.
Yeah.
Kind of our first video, at least with that subject. Um, so let's just kind of start. We'll start doing the brainstorming portion of this and just kind of talking about what we were talking about before this recording.
Gotcha. Alrighty.
So,
So then,
homebrew.
some fun homebrew stuff I have been struggling with. Well, not struggling. I have been frustrated with.
You just irked.
Irked. I can't believe it, Josh. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it
How
either, man.
how could D&D have this huge book of all these rules, and for shields, you have the option of getting a 10 gold shield that gives you 2 to armor, and maybe a feat or two that lets you do something special. How dare they?
Yeah, I don't get
How
that
dare
personally.
they?
No idea why. Yeah, 300. Let's see. I just actually pulled up my player's manual. 311 pages worth of content, and
Right,
and
and
barely anything about shields. Fantastic.
just I think for me coming well, just from video games in general, Skyrim, where you can craft your own shields and add enchantments and enhance them, and then like Dark Souls, where you have all these different types of shields. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
you just you love shields in video games, and then you come to D&D and you look at the options, and they're not
And
great.
you got 2.
They're not great. I'm gonna be honest.
You,
At least fifth
you got
edition.
yeah, you got good. You have decent shield and then slightly better shield. That's the 2 shield options in D&D 5e for some reason. Yeah, where if you look at, I think 3.5 had different variations of shields. Like they would have I think they had a tower shield. They had a buckler, which the buckler was my favorite one from 3.5 because you could legitimately strap it onto your arm and still have a free hand.
And you
Which
see,
is
I
what
am
buckler's supposed to be.
5e is basically all I've known. So
Right.
I'm one of the poor souls that got into D&D a little bit late. I wish
we played 3.5 when we started.
but even then I
I
didn't get super into it. So like even anything from 4th edition to everything before that, it's just I'm not familiar with it. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that have played previous editions that have maybe carried stuff over or already have certain systems. But I think what we're just trying to hit on is like for the players that are like us and maybe haven't ever thought about it or want something new with shields and looking for something, maybe we can try and do some brainstorming to implement a little bit of homebrew for shields.
For sure. So I kind of already talked about this. Bucklers. They
Yes.
strap them on your arm, have a free hand, have a little bit of AC boost while still
Yep.
having that offhand. I think this is a no-brainer to add in as a variant shield.
Yes.
Personally, it gives rogues a chance to actually use a shield.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the ability to continue to use your offhand gives a lot of versatility to it. And to this day I will still not understand why it's not in the base game.
Right. So I think something, maybe this is like just a little subcategory we can start off with. Having some sort of small arm shield. Straps maybe?
Or legitimately like pay extra to add straps onto the shield so you can
Right. So I know
use your hand.
something that I've been trying to kind of categorize as like a shield that I kind of took inspiration from the Marvel universe. Whenever Captain America lost his shield and he got his little Wakanda arm shield blade things, I don't even know what they are. But I think just something like coming up with like something like that to have in your game would all be fun. Obviously, it wouldn't be made of vibranium.
I mean, it could be.
I mean, it could be. It could, depending on what kind of smith you come across. But these types of like these different types of arm shields, like small arm shields that could be really interesting to implement into your character, whether it be for early or late game. That's one that kind of came across to me as could be fun to put into a game.
Mm-hmm.
You said buckler. Did you have any other ones that you've kind of thought about?
I have a little bit. I think this again was in 3.5, is adding components to your shield to weaponize it. Um,
Yeah,
like literally adding spikes on the front of the shield. Having a variant to where you can attach a weapon to it. Like for example, we were talking about I think they're Zulu spears. Excuse me, Zulu shields where you can attach a spear to them. Uh, Something like that I think would be cool. And
something that sticks
again,
out to me is like always like the maybe like a hidden like retractable blade, for like
that would be
maybe
kind of cool.
like a little rogue, like a rogue that would have like some sort of, I don't know, shield mixed in with a bracer that has like a little
Like
hidden
a
knife
wrist
in it or
blade or
something.
something.
Yeah, I always think that's
Oh,
kind
that'd
of
be
a cool
cool.
idea.
Um,
Um,
or maybe even I just think, I mean, it just comes down to there needs to be more add-ons for shields
True.
and variations. Like, what if what if I want to weaponize my shield where there's literally like a bladed part on it, like it's also a also a axe blade or something. I don't
Right.
know.
And that could always be fun because that could like turn your shield into like a two-handed fighting weapon that you could go
Oh,
into.
just go full like what is that, Monster Hunter charge blade?
Yeah,
that'd
something.
be that'd be sick.
So I mean, obviously, the big thing you run into is like how do you balance it?
Right.
I think the easiest thing to always do is lower the AC, go from 2 to 1, just like across the board, and then have a side add-on feature or extra stat added to it, so that way you're not stepping on the toes of say like a normal shield, like a kite shield or a heater shield or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that's probably fair, or
Yeah.
what other way would you go around it?
Another way I was saying is, if you want to use a shield to its full effectiveness, is to kind of take an action, like a defensive action. So
Okay.
that way you're kind of bracing the shield, like you're basically taking, like I just said, a defensive stance. So you're fully ready to intercept an attack.
Okay.
Um, I think that could be a good way to do that. Or, I mean,
I
even
guess.
incorporating a homebrew feat in there for like a shield master, to where you could use a bonus action as a defensive movement. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
I think for me, that's something that's always been like an idea, which I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not an expert on everything that's out in 5e, but so if this is already out there, then who knows? But maybe having some sort of feature to the shield you're using, and to whenever you're being attacked, use as a reaction. If you use your reaction with this certain type of shield, then maybe you get like an automatic like a +1 to your defense or something with it. So you get the full 2 AC, but you're also wasting part of your action economy for your whole turn. So
Right.
because I know me personally, uh, whenever I have played as a paladin, and I go like the shield route or I play something else with the shield, sometimes there's rounds where I never use my reaction, and it kind of just seems like a wasted action economy
Movement or
that
something. Yeah.
yeah, it's just kind of there and you don't use it. So I think coming up with uh stuff to use that for could possibly be fun. And if you're using that to only go to 2, just bumping it up 1 AC, it's nothing that's gonna break the game, but can kind of help you out a little bit.
I wonder how you could balance something like that too, because I mean, I do like the idea of having a defensive reaction. That would be kind of cool.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe you could do that. A good way to balance that might be that you can use a defensive reaction. That almost might be useful as a feat, though. You can use
Yeah,
defensive reaction, and then on like your next turn, you have like, I don't know, disadvantage to attack. So that way you're focusing so much on defense that you kind of sacrifice some offense.
got you.
Something like that might be cool.
Which I think for having, you might already be sacrificing your offense by using it as a defensive reaction, because then you don't get something where if they leave your the 5 foot proximity of you, you don't
Right.
get the The
attack of
reaction attack,
opportunity.
yeah, there you go.
Ah, I gotcha. That's a good point too.
But I mean, obviously, I mean, all of this can be tested within games, which I haven't done. So, I
Right.
mean, who
Well,
knows?
that's why we're talking about it now, right?
It's his homebrew.
That's right. It's homebrew. You can do whatever you want. This is my world.
Right.
If I want to have a shield that can connect to a sword that turns into a giant axe, I can do that. Okay, to be fair though, a Monster Hunter D&D game would be pretty sick.
I actually have a PDF that, forgive me, I don't know who shared it, but it was on Reddit, and someone like posted this long PDF of all updated, well, to date, Monster Hunter monsters, but like they created or stole stats and put it in like a 5e, like a
Uh-huh. The format.
format where
Yeah.
that way you can just kind of throw in any game, any monster for it in a game. I thought that was pretty cool. Don't know if
Yeah,
I ever get around to using it, but
I've seen programs like that before, and I've thought about kind of messing with it, but I guess I'm not that confident yet with creating monsters, because I feel like either I'm going to make a pathetically weak monster that I think is cool, and then I just disappoint myself, or I'm going to accidentally make a monster that's unkillable and just team wipes every time I incorporate it. So
right, you never know.
yeah,
But that's how you learn, though. Is
for sure.
wiping your team and laughing at their death.
I guess you guys just didn't fight strong enough, huh?
Right. Should have rolled more natural 20s, loser.
Dang.
But but no. But yeah, I think just shields are definitely an untapped thing. For homebrewing though, how we're talking about straps and these add-on features. As a DM, I always like to find the opportunity of adding these things in for blacksmiths in the game.
Right.
All of your homebrew content don't have to be just wrapped up in a present and thrown into your game and automatically bought. You know, let your players role play with blacksmiths or even other PCs that are like trying to learn blacksmithing, and like let them try and create these items. You know, you can always set up some sort of like system where they have, or even a quest where they have to like go and get these certain material, bring back to a blacksmith, and then he promises to make them like a special shield with extra capabilities.
Right.
That's always really fun to me. Or having to have certain requests to add on to your current shield so that you can have it more customized and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can just go up to a blacksmith and say, "Hey, I'm having this in battle. I feel like I'm having this issue. Is there any way that I can use my shield and not have to drop it in the middle of combat?"
Right. So
Because like this ogre got a hold of my shield one time, and I couldn't get the smell out for weeks. We'll just leave it at that.
definitely, but yeah, just I think a fun way is always just trying to incorporate this stuff into your world. Don't think that you have to necessarily just already have it gift wrap for your players. I mean, who knows? Some games might be like that, and that's maybe how the players prefer it. But
Right. That kind of goes back to the setting that you're into.
right. Just always looking. I like always looking for opportunities of role playing and interacting with the world, and I think that's always one fun way to do it.
Oh yeah, just legitimately having your characters kind of almost invent things for
Right.
the world. That's always fun.
So that would be one way to like add straps onto your shield. I mean, most shields already have like basic straps for like the forearm or to latch onto your hand or something.
Yeah.
But this is kind of
You know.
skipping ahead.
Yeah.
But I know there's like certain shields that are like tower shields where they have added on stuff where they can be deployed into the ground and then you can use it as like actual cover or like 3/4
Right.
cover, stuff
Yeah.
like
That's
that.
that's awesome.
So there's many examples of real world shields that exist where they use stuff like that.
Yeah, like legitimately.
Mm-hmm. But I guess as far as like small arm shields, what other features do you have in mind, or have you thought about, or would you like to maybe
I've
add
actually
before?
got I've actually got a good kind of point that this is more about armor than shields, honestly. But
Okay.
it just kind of popped in my head. Again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. I think this was a feature in 3.5 as well. But locking gauntlets, the kind that you can legitimately like not drop your weapon.
Right.
That's not in 5e, I don't think. Actually, I'm kind of looking to double check here because I don't think it is. But the nice thing about that is that you can't be disarmed.
Oh
Like
yeah.
someone can't knock the weapon out of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is you can't drop your weapon. So if you're committed to the weapon that you're using,
Right.
which can either be a good thing or a bad thing.
Right. So it may have like a dawn and a doff time for it to
Yes.
to put it on and take it off. Which I
More
think
so than would be for just dropping a weapon. Yeah.
right, which I think is actually something very underused by DMs, at least what I've seen, or maybe it's just something we forget naturally.
It's
Whenever,
mostly that.
yeah, probably. Just like whenever players get attacked in the middle of the night or something, it's like everyone somehow mysteriously has all their weapons and armor on,
And
like.
armor, yeah.
But
So I would say, kind of sorry to jump in there, but I would say for something like that, a good way to avoid that is, of course, if someone's staying up for lookout, which is almost always going to happen. If someone's staying up to lookout, they're going to obviously be armored and have their weapon.
right,
But for the people that are sleeping, I would say that you have the option to try to sleep in your armor if you want. I would say they either have to roll to see if they could even fall asleep.
what I've had a couple games where I ran into that, and I brought it up to my players. So because I think they knew that they were going to be attacked, and so one of them had said, "I'm just going to sleep in my armor." So I was like, "Okay, go roll a." I think I did Constitution saving throw, and I had the DC set at I don't remember the number, but something where if they passed, then they did fall asleep with no trouble at all, like they didn't have a restless night. But if they were going to fail, then they would get like a point of exhaustion for the next day. Just where I mean, it happens to us nowadays with real beds and sheets and comfy places. Sometimes you have a restless night and the next day you feel groggy and not ready. So
yeah, if you're in full plate armor, I mean, it would definitely be a tough one.
Right. And
go ahead. Sorry.
And so just coming up with like simple solutions like that, I think I've always just turned to exhaustion levels, but I'm sure there's other things, maybe like a -1 to attack, whatever you, as a DM, you may feel appropriate. But
you could even also like just have a scale of like how bad they do fail. Either they straight up don't catch a single wink of sleep all night, and then they get like 2 points of exhaustion or something like that.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Just anything with that. I think that's a good way to deal with sleeping in armor for sure.
Also, another segue. This is gonna be really quick because we're really getting off topic, but I love the idea of having like a critical fail and not just a normal fail on like saving throws and stuff.
Definitely.
So like if you fail by 1 point, maybe you fail, but it's not too bad. But if you like roll like a 2 or a 3 and it's just like really far off, then I think maybe adding like a little bit extra repercussions to your roll is always fun. Maybe not for
sure.
I mean, maybe it will be for the players, but I think just having that extra flavor and like how bad someone actually does is always fun.
For sure, and even with that, I think you can kind of incorporate that with what we were talking about before with shields.
Yeah.
If you try to do a defensive move and then you just totally fail it, or for example, if you do a defensive move, so you're relying on your shield and then the enemy crits, what if they damage your shield?
Yeah. Oh, I love the idea of having what is it called? Like where you have to repair your armors in video games, like kind of crossing that over. I know it's hard to keep up with, and I know a lot of people don't like it, but at least for an RP standpoint, I think it's always really fun to like you roll a natural 1 while attacking, so you ding your sword against a rock and it now has a dent on it. Maybe keeping track of like how badly your sword gets dented, or maybe it's not as sharp as it was. You have to get it fixed or something.
Yeah, and I honestly I don't think that's a bad idea at all because while you said that most players won't necessarily like that, I think that as a DM you can be clever with how you incorporate things like that.
Yeah.
Because that'll give them a reason to go back to town in a certain area where maybe a certain event could happen, which could lead to a new quest.
Yes.
So, and it could really throw the players off because it's not something that they would expect to happen when they're just going to try to find a blacksmith to do a quick repair or something.
It's also fun, a good idea for like a gold sink. A lot of times, your players just build up mounds and mounds of gold and never do anything with it.
I want to buy a village,
right? So like kind of keeping it a little bit realistic, where they're having to maintain like their shields and stuff is, at least
for sure,
always a fun idea.
Well,
So
honestly, if you look back, that's where a lot of money went with anyone that was like a
yes,
mercenary. It would go in maintenance for their own weapons, food, lodging, and that's pretty much it.
yeah. So I mean, just kind of tying it back to our shields, like the small shields, that could be maybe like a little added bonus. So if you are looking to go this route of having like this little economy sink, smaller shields might be a little bit easier to maintain. Maybe not. Maybe it won't cost as much to fix.
That's a good point.
So that's something that can, one of the benefits of having like a smaller shield to it. Of course, if it's a little bit more intricate and has retractable blades or something like that, then obviously up the price. But um,
Yeah, for sure.
it's always something you can add in.
So yeah, I think all these are really great ideas, honestly.
Yeah.
But I personally I don't have too much more to add to the shield discussion. Not with getting too deep into like numbers games and whatnot. Anyway.
Right. I think some fun things just to kind of expand more. The difference between just like a normal size shield and like an actual like big shield, like a bigger shield, like a tower shield or something like
Uh huh.
that. Tower shields, I think that are always I think, what do they call it? A pavis shield, which
Not sure.
which are known to be like the size of a tower shield, but like have half the weight. They
Okay.
have like more straps and stuff, but I forget. I'll have to look it up. But they used in real life, and their main purpose was to be able to be mounted into the ground, and they were used as like actual cover. So that way, like if you had like an onslaught of like arrows coming in or something, you were a bit more protected than having to like just block it with like an arm shield type thing.
Yeah, a pavise shield, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, something. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know
it's an
the actual.
yeah. It looks like it's an Italian shield.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and like you said, they would legitimately jam it into the ground and use that as cover as they were loading their crossbows. And
Right.
interesting.
So like something like that for like tower shields, that can always be an added extra feature that you can add into it. So maybe you have a character that likes using a giant shield, but a certain battle arises where they need the 3/4 cover or something. They put it
Right.
down, and then they can either use it to fire like a crossbow or a bow and arrow from behind, or um, slam it down and like kind of use it for cover for an ally while they charge in with like a two hander or two
For
swords or
sure.
something. You know.
For sure. For sure. I feel, speaking of which, I feel like the 3/4 cover is totally underutilized by players.
Yeah, I think most of the time they're like, "Oh, is there a tree nearby? Okay, I'll use it like that." But they never get real creative with it. I don't feel.
Yeah. I mean, half the time I don't even notice people using like walls or tree.
Yeah.
Like, okay. I think that's kind of where it goes into like there's a lot of like little intricate rules in D&D that are oftentimes just overlooked, which is a
Yes.
shame, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, there's so many different types of shields that we can take from inspiration from movies or even real life, that I think you could do your own homebrew too. Add extra maybe plus ones to tower shields where they have a +3 automatically, but they're just bigger and maybe they weigh more. Since maybe the way more, you can even like dock maybe 5 movement from whoever's using them, unless they have a certain strength. Who knows? Like
That's actually a good idea. Like just you literally using yourself as a mobile wall with a tower shield. Like if you're in a
right.
narrow hallway and just like hold that line so people can't get through.
Yeah, so like you're an automatic +3 +4 to AC, but you move a little bit slower or something.
That's a
Um,
cool idea.
but who knows? Some people might not like those ideas, but for
I
those of
like
us
it.
that like to think a little bit more of shields and like to have more versatility.
Well, I mean, why
Um,
not even add like a little slot in your tower shield for a spear to go through?
yeah,
You know what
exactly.
I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's a fantastic idea, honestly. Well, um, what else was I gonna say here? There was a point I was gonna make, and I totally forgot what it was. Oh yeah, one thing that I did find that was kind of funny. I don't know if shields have a disadvantage to stealth, but I do know that armor does for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
This doesn't even have to be within the recording. I was just kind of gonna say, wouldn't it be kind of funny is if you could make a stealth armor, but like the way you do it is you just get like regular armor, and it only gives you stealth when you're staying still, but it's just like a ghillie suit armor.
Yeah, I mean that
That would actually be awesome.
I like that. Or like having just even adding like a I don't know, some sort of incantation or enchantment to your shield where like if you're sitting behind it, it like blends in like a chameleon to your
Like
surroundings or
yeah, I was
something.
actually thinking of that too. I was trying to be clever without using magic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
But
no, yeah, enchanting your shield is a definite thing that should be done.
well, if you've made it this far, thank you. Hopefully this is the first and worst of many more videos to come. If you have any ideas for any future videos, just let us know in the comments. Thanks again, and may all your battles end in TPK.
I knew it had to be done. In the middle of the night, placed it against the door to the home, and I set it on fire.